First, fast, accurate, live. This is WSBT 22 News on Fox.
8 o'clock. Good morning. We begin with the WSBT 22 weather alert. This is a live look in Elkhart right now, one of several places under a flood warning as we speak.
WSBT 22 has team coverage of this flooding event. Kristen Bean is compiling a list of all the roads closed off due to high flood waters. And our Caroline Torrey is in the Jewel Woods subdivision in South Bend, where people there are worried about a flooding repeat of 2016. But first, we turn to WSBT 22 meteorologist Carrie Peugeot. Carrie.
Good morning. We've been talking lots of rain. We've already had 2.5 to 3 inches of rain across the area, and because of that we have flood warnings in place. You see the word aerial in there. Basically, we have a good section, a good chunk of our area under this flood warning because we've had so much of that rain, and we've also had that snow melt. Those two combinations, you're going to see lots of low-lying areas that are affected by that. In addition to that type of flooding doesn't really have to do with the creeks and rivers, but because all this water is eventually going to end up in those locations, all these little small areas are right along all of the rivers and the creeks and those basins that really collect all the water, where we typically have some flooding issues. Plymouth, one of those areas, not quite to flood stage just yet. In Elkhart County, you can see between Dunlap and Goshen there, the update from this morning is you're 4 inches below flood stage, and that's expected to go over flood stage later on this morning, and you'll see those areas right there along the river start to flood. Also in areas like St. Joe County and Elkhart, Mishawaka, there are a lot of parks, low-lying parks. You're going to see high standing water in those areas and those roads right near them. That's going to continue for today, and we're just adding to that. This is a live look at the radar. We have rain showers falling in our entire area. In some cases, it's a ½ inch to an inch of rain per hour. And also, we've been seeing some thunder and lightning occasionally. If you've seen a flash of lightning or rumble of thunder, that is the case. We're not talking severe weather, but we're talking enough water to continue today that we're talking probably another 2 inches. That's just going to exacerbate some of the flooding that we already have. One of the bright spots today, at least we're in the 60s. That feels pretty good if you're outside. 65 around 1 o'clock this afternoon. Evening commute still in the 60s, but we're going to talk about a drop in those temperatures and maybe some traveling issues tomorrow as well. That's coming up in about 10 minutes.
All right, Carrie, thank you very much. WSBT 22's Kristen Bean continues our team coverage now. She is in southern St. Joe County.
Kristen, more than a dozen roads across our area are closed right now.
Yeah, including this one. They're working right now to close 331 Bremen Highway, just north of Bremen between Riley and Shively Roads. In fact, they're working to close it down from US 6 all the way to the bypass. Hey, did you guys close the road there up at the bypass? So right now it's closed at the bypass, and they're working to get it closed at US 6 down there. And this is one of the reasons why. Look at this water. Ah, my umbrella. Cars have been trying to drive through this all morning. Some of them have gotten stuck. We've seen at least 2 cars attempt and then either had to have someone push them out, or as you can see kind of at the end behind that Jeep that just turned around, there's a dark colored car. Police told us that that car attempted to go through this very deep puddle and made it through, but their car likely died. Stuff like this, pretty dangerous and not advisable to go through. In fact, it only takes a couple inches of water to wash your car away or to damage it like that, and you could get stuck. We're hearing about several roads throughout the area, more than a dozen that are closed. Around 10 or more in Elkhart County closed. At least 6 in St. Joseph County that closed. This is a graphic showing some of the lists that we've compiled. Dispatchers say it hasn't changed in several hours, although with the rain coming today and tomorrow, likely more roads will close, some will open, some will close. Just give yourself plenty of extra time no matter where you're going. You may need to turn around. Don't drive through places where you're not sure how deep the water is or how secure the road is underneath the water. And there are now some houses that we're hearing that could be seen flooding. We saw some on our way down here to Bremen along in some low-lying areas. Caroline Torrey is live this morning in the Jewel Woods area. They've experienced flooding in the past, and now homeowners there are concerned again this morning. Caroline?
Good morning, Kristen. Yeah, I've seen some homeowners out here trying to just see what some of the flooding damage is at this point. So take a look. We were actually a half hour ago just at the other side of that intersection, and we've moved. So this whole area is seeing all of this water right here, and you see that that car is they ended up making their way through. The water isn't too terribly deep, but anytime that you do see standing water, do approach with caution, and it is just likely better to turn around if you do come up to it. So here you see this water right here flowing very fast. So neighbors are telling me that this is because a couple of drainage ditches aren't really doing their job. They're not big enough to take on rain like this and water like this. So it's really kind of flowing fast around here. It's very saturated. I'm hearing residents have already had to try to start pumping their basement out of water, and there are also people who I've seen trying to put sandbags to prevent water from getting into their house. So they really are concerned here that this could turn into another kind of a 2016 flooding event. So we are continuing to talk to people here and kind of learn about what they're doing. And we're going to stick around here all morning long to bring you any updates about this flooding here in this neighborhood. Live here in South Bend, I'm Caroline Torrey, WSBT 22 News.
First, fast, accurate. You're watching WSBT 22 News at midday.
We start with a weather alert you need to be aware of this morning. Heavy rain, melting snow causing big problems across the area. There are dozens of roads flooded and closed. In fact, too many to even show on a map right now, as well as advisories in place. Some police and road departments are running out of signs because there are so many roads with high water. They're placing barricades in some cases, but not everyone is heeding the warning. And that is dangerous as well. We have team coverage of this flooding event. WSBT 22's Caitlin Connon is looking at some of the worst flooding along Bago Creek. Jesse Schultz is covering the Yellow River, rising as we speak in Marshall County. First Alert meteorologist Abby Wempler, though, is tracking these storms. And Abby, we're already in record territory.
We are. We have already broken records. You can see with just these numbers behind me, we're looking at anywhere from 2 to 3¼ inches of rain that has fallen. But you got to realize on top of it, we have melting snow, which is still more water. So some of the totals we've had since about 9:30, 11 through 11 o'clock this morning, 3¼ of an inch of rain fallen in Elkhart, about 3 2/10 of an inch in Stark. Just under 2½ inches in Plymouth, for example, and we are not done. So not only do we have that much rain, we have melting snow, and look at this heavy rain. So where we're seeing some lesser amounts, now we're seeing the heavier rain falling south. So stretching, of course, through portions of Kosciuszko, Fulton, Pulaski counties, the yellows you're seeing there. Even as we make our way into our very far southern counties, I mean, we are getting very impressive rainfall totals around Rochester, Winamac as well. We make our way a little bit farther north and east, LaGrange. You have seen decent totals as well. We also are just seeing pockets of rain making its way through Cass County into St. Joseph County, even around the South Bend area. But some of our northern counties, you are getting a break right now. So there is some good news there. I just need to widen this view for you, though. This is my next concern. This is the actual cold front. You can see that wintry mix on the back side of it where temperatures are getting colder. Embedded with this, thunderstorms, meaning heavy rain as well. So we are not done yet. Of course, this flood warning remains in effect, at least for the foreseeable future, as we are expecting those river levels to continue to rise. On top of all of that, we have rain. We have still a little bit of melting snow and record highs to talk about. So what are we expecting before all of this is done? Another 1 to 3 inches of rain on top of those numbers I already showed you. The flooding remains a concern. And of course, we're going to keep an eye on those temperatures as well. So we have broken record after record today for February. We're going to talk much more about how much more rain we're expecting on the backside of this, and also that possibility of a wintry mix later tonight, coming up in minutes.
All right, Abby, thank you very much. Take a look at this video from the Elkhart County Sheriff's Department, posted on Facebook. Emergency crews at that, and a farmer worked to rescue a couple of people stuck in that Jeep. You see it on the side of the road. This was just before 9 this morning. County Roads 3 and 26 near the bypass and State Road 19. The sign says it all. Watch for high water. If you look, there is a second car in the water just beyond that Jeep. You can see it there, kind of middle of the screen. Elkhart County has run out of closed signs for closed roads and high water signs because so many roads have floodwaters. We continue our team coverage right now with WSBT 22's Caitlin Connon. She's live at Creekwood Terrace in Elkhart County. And Caitlin, Bago Creek typically runs behind this neighborhood.
Yes, but today Bago Creek is running through this neighborhood. Neighbors who live on this street say they watched this water rise up around their homes in a matter of hours. The Elkhart County Emergency Management Team wanted to evacuate 12 homes on this street, but 2 families actually chose to stay. Many of the others were rescued in boats. First responders pulled those boats through hip-high water. I spoke to one woman who has been awake since 3:30. She didn't want to show her face, but she says she left her house at 6 this morning with a foot of water in the basement.
It's just disbelief. I'm sad. I just know it's going to be a lot of work, and that's fine, but it's just disbelief. I'm glad that we're all out, and that's awesome, but it's going to be a lot of work to get him back to a safe home.
I'm working with the Red Cross to see how their rescue efforts are going. A representative there said volunteers didn't need to open a shelter for the people that live on this street because they all opted to stay with family instead. But as soon as I have an update from staff with the Red Cross, I will update you on air and online.
All right, Caitlin, thanks very much. Let's move our team coverage now to Marshall County, where WSBT 22's Jesse Schultz is live in Plymouth. And Jesse, you're standing in a spot known for its flooding problems.
Yeah, that's right, Bob. I'm in River Park, and it's appropriately named because we are on Yellow River right now. I want you to take a look right over here, and you can see that this area is prone to flooding. The water is moving pretty fast, and it's continuing to rise. The latest measurement was about 11.5 feet, but flood level is 13, so it's expected to crest at some point today with this continued rainfall. Now, I just got off the phone with Plymouth Mayor Mark Center. He says over the last 10 years, the city bought about 16 houses along this area because it's so used to flooding. He says he has his crews on standby, and he also left a message with the superintendent of Plymouth Schools just in case they need to close tomorrow due to road closures and conditions because of flooding. Now, a lot of people here are bracing for this anticipated rainfall that you see here right now, and I'm getting ready to talk to them. You'll hear from them a little later on WSBT 22 News, but for now, I'm live in Plymouth, and Jesse Schultz, WSBT 22 News.
Jesse, thank you very much. And this is what the people in the Jewel Woods neighborhood are dealing with right now. That's the area just south of South Bend that had historic flooding back in 2016. Yards, streets, even basements with water in them right now. The water was about half a foot deep in some areas a couple of hours ago. People living there say the drainage ditches are not able to keep up. Some have already started pumping water out of their basements. Others are placing sandbags in the hopes of keeping the water out of their homes. Southwest Michigan also seeing the flooding this morning. This is what it looked like earlier today in Cass County. Near Union, the water was flowing literally across the road there. You can see the moving water. In fact, the water was rushing across several roads. Remember, if you see water across a roadway, turn around. It doesn't take much at all to sweep your car away. The good news, we don't have any reports of any injuries. Stay with WSBT 22, both on the air and online. We have the latest on the snow melt and record rainfall. You can get alerts and the latest information anytime through our WSBT 22 weather app. They will include road closures. You can find where you can get sandbags. This is all a free download from the Apple App Store and from Google Play.
First, fast, accurate with Jennifer Copeland and Todd Connor. You're watching WSBT 22 News at 5.
A weather alert right now at 5. Dangerous flooding can be seen throughout our area. Here's a live look from Bago Creek. Several people here have been forced to evacuate their homes.
And here's a live look in Plymouth. River Park is known for flooding problems, and today is no different.
The high water is an issue many of you have seen all day long. This is video of Bremen Highway in St. Joseph County. Many roads throughout the area are closed right now. You can find that complete list on our website.
And more rain is in store for many of us. We have live team coverage from every corner of the area.
And we will check in with our reporters in just a moment. But first, WSBT 22 has our team of meteorologists working to keep you safe with what's happening right here where you live. Here's meteorologist Abby Wepler.
Yes, and Todd, Jennifer, unfortunately, what's happening now is hours more of steady rain, even heavy at times. So as we continue to look out west, I mean, this rain takes us into portions of Illinois and then stretches even farther south and west. So for us here at home, the evening commute, not much has changed other than we're adding more water to the roads. A nice little line of heavy rain stretching from Berrien County all the way through southern LaPorte County as well. We'll zoom into some of our southern counties. Eastern Kosciuszko County, little bit of a break for you. It's not going to last long, but you know what? If you can get a little bit of a break from the steady rain, definitely take it. As we make our way a little bit farther north, you can see the deep shades of green, also the yellows. That just means localized downpours, steady rain. Not much is changing in the short term. We'll push it out west and show you that steady heavy rain, that's pretty much our forecast, taking us well into the nighttime hours. So here we go, Futurecast. What's happening right now? There's the pockets of heavy rain, of course, and the green, the steady rain as well. As we make our way through the evening, if you have to travel, you need to really think of the roads that don't typically get covered with water during rain events, because this is a significant rain event for how much rain we've already seen. Overnight, though, that cold front moves through. Look what happens early tomorrow. A little bit of a mix for your morning commute. So what are we expecting? Well, that steady rain is going to put another 1 to 2 inches of rain on the ground. The flooding is going to get worse, and by tomorrow morning, we wake up to a mix. So if we add another 1 to 2, well, we've already seen very impressive rainfall, and with much more on what we have seen and the records we have already broken today, here's Matt.
Yeah, let's take a look at the past, couple of days. So we'll start this from last night when the rain started here. It obviously has been significant, Abby, and that's going to continue, unfortunately, at least for the next probably 12 hours or so. Estimated rainfall, this is radar estimates, and we put the numbers on top of the radar colors you see there. Easily 4 to 5 inches for most of northern Indiana, stretching into parts of southern Michigan, especially right around US 12. 2 to 4 and a good chunk of Berrien County, but 5 inches plus near North Judson in western parts of Stark County, also over towards Newton and Jasper County, southern parts of Porter County as well. Let's give you a quick update as to how much rain we've seen here. So officially, this is just today, all right, since midnight, officially just shy of 2 1/4 inches of rain. The old record for this date was 1.64, blew that out of the water. And then February precip, 5.60 inches of precipitation. The old record, you can see there, was much less, set back in the mid-1970s. And one more record I don't have listed here is the wettest day ever in February was set back in 1968 with 1.95 inches of rain. Obviously, we have beaten that today. Our concern is clearly road conditions as water continues to pond your homes, as many of basements are flooding. But the focus after this ends later tonight will be on rivers, and that is a serious threat as we head towards not just tomorrow, but really Thursday and Friday as well. Abby will have much more on that coming up in just a few short minutes.
Matt, Abby, thank you. Nearly a dozen families won't be sleeping at home tonight. WSBT 22's Caitlin Connon is live near Bago Creek in Elkhart County. And Caitlin, people in several homes in this neighborhood evacuated.
Todd, it's not hard to see why. Neighbors say they watched this water rise several feet in just a few hours. Emergency management crews told them it would be safer if they went somewhere else. Crews used boats to bring people back to dry land, but at least 2 families decided to stay where they were. I spoke to the Red Cross this morning. Staff there said for those who did leave, shelters would not be necessary. Those neighbors decided to stay with family. But for Erin Milliken, it was hard to walk away.
It's just disbelief. I'm sad. I just know it's going to be a lot of work, and that's fine, but it's just disbelief. I'm glad that we're all out, and that's awesome, but it's going to be a lot of work to get him back to a safe home.
Milliken says she and her family are new to this street. They never expected Bago Creek to flood quite the way it did today, but others here in this area say they weren't quite so surprised. Hear how they're drying out next at 6. Live in Elkhart County, Caitlin Connon, WSBT 22 News.
Those who needed help to get out of their homes this morning relied on first responders from several different departments. Those rescuers helped both people and pets from their homes ahead of the rising floodwaters. Both Bago and Elkhart fire departments launched rescue boats to help people from Creekwood Terrace homes. Elkhart County Emergency Management and the Red Cross helped coordinate rescue efforts. Homeowners said the flooding was the worst they had seen since 2008.
Our coverage of today's flooding with a live look at the Jewel Woods subdivision in St. Joseph County. This was one of the hardest hit areas nearly 2 years ago when we received that historic rainfall. Some of the homes still are abandoned, and other homeowners have invested quite a lot of money repairing their homes. Today, people waded through high water, watching in concern as water continues to rise and surround their homes. Troy Gann moved to the area 2 years ago and says it took months after that historic flood to get his family's life back to normal.
This is the 5th time that this has happened. One of them was the big flood. You've got 8-foot culverts feeding into 4-foot culverts. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that it's not, that water is gonna plug up this water.
WSBT 22's Veronica Ortega will have much more from officials and neighbors coming up tonight at 6.
And if you need a sandbag or two for high water, take a look at your screen. Here is a list of several locations where you can get the bags right now. In St. Joseph County, you can head to the South Bend or Mishawaka Street Department. You can also find them at the Clay Fire Department. In Elkhart County, you can get them at the Elkhart Street Department and the County Highway Garage. These are just some of the locations. You can find a complete list on our website, WSBT.com. Also on our website, very important information on your evening commute. There are countless roads that are closed right now. We've put a list together and we'll continue to update it as new information comes in. Our First Alert Weather Team coverage is just getting started at 5:30. WSBT 22's Jesse Schultz will join us live from Marshall County, and Abby will have another update on your forecast in about 7 minutes.
First, fast, accurate with Jennifer Copeland and Todd Connor. You're watching WSBT 22 News at 5:30.
A weather alert now at 5:30. This is a live look from Mishawaka right there, one of the several places under a flood warning right now.
WSBT 22's live team coverage continues in Marshall County in just a moment. But first, we turn to WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Matt Rudkin.
Hey there, Jen and Todd. Yeah, this is a pretty significant event. This is an intense amount of moisture, especially for February. Almost unheard of to see this much water. I'll talk about that in just a second. This is luckily the last round of rain, but it's going to last hours, and it's got quite the punch to it as well. Our local storm tracker radar here, you can see it moving basically southwest and northeast. I'll stop it here so we can get a better idea. This is between Elkhart and Mishawaka, an incredible amount of rain, easily 2 to 3 inches an hour here. See where the dark reds are? Haven't had any reports of lightning, but that is extremely heavy rain. Down towards Plymouth, pretty close to Bremen and Napanee. This is all pushing over to the east. Everybody's seeing rain. It's just some of you are seeing a little bit more moderate or heavy than others. Estimated rainfall so far in the past 24 hours, 4 to 5 inches of rain. The little orange dots you see here are 5 inches plus. To put that into perspective, now it's 2 different physics here, but I think this will help at least send the message as to why we're concerned with flooding. If this was snow, it'd be 50 to 60 inches area wide. Our normal all winter long is about 65 inches of snow. We're seeing almost all of our winter precipitation in 36 hours. That's why we're seeing the standing water. The soil's frozen, can't go anywhere. And that's why I'm really concerned about river levels, not just now, but tomorrow and Thursday. They're going to rise significantly. Everything runs off into the rivers because the ground can't absorb it. We're going to talk about that. We'll show you which rivers have the most significant chance of reaching or breaching their banks. And there's some dry weather to tell you about as well. I'll have your forecast in just a bit.
All right, as Matt said, the rain is causing widespread issues throughout our viewing area. The northern part of Marshall County has many road closures and high water warnings.
Right now, Plymouth isn't dealing with many of those, but people there are bracing themselves for what's to come. WSBT 22's Jesse Schultz is live in Plymouth. And Jesse, you are at an area known for flooding.
Yeah, I'm standing on the bridge that's crossing the Yellow River, and take a look at this water. It's continuing to rise. I'm told by the time it reaches its crest on Thursday, it will reach nearly record-breaking flood levels. But the people I spoke to here in Plymouth say they're used to it. Mary Hanthorne and her granddaughter Raylan are enjoying nature's work while they can. In a few days, the Yellow River could crest at a near 16 feet.
It's got a lot more to go, I'm sure.
Hanthorne says she remembers when this area of River Park used to be houses.
The river kind of took them over the years.
Plymouth Mayor Mark Center says it was a problem area for years for many people.
There was 11 houses in here, and thanks to FEMA, and it took us several years, but we bought all 11 of them.
It's now turned into the park we know today, and the last time there was a major flood here was in 2009.
We're hopefully prepared, but you just never know. I've already talked to NIPSCO, and I've already talked to the Plymouth School Corporation, and we're prepared to do anything that we need to do.
But the people I spoke to seemed used to it.
It actually floods a lot in Plymouth. like everywhere. If it rains really hard, a lot of like our main streets flood. It's actually been so bad before I was in a kayak kayaking down the road.
And as the water continues to rise and the rain keeps coming down, Mayor Center says they're bracing themselves for what's to come.
Hoping this would never happen again, but here we are. The city of Plymouth is prepared for the worst.
To put things into perspective, the record-breaking flood level in this Yellow River was 17 feet. By the time it crests on Thursday, it's expected to be about 16 feet. So we are very close to that record-breaking flood level. Mayor Center says that the city will be providing sandbags at the Hoffman Auto Parks parking lot. And all you have to do is bring your own shovel. That will happen tomorrow. But for now, I'm live in Plymouth. Jesse Schultz, WSBT 22 News.
First, fast, accurate with Jennifer Copeland and Todd Connor. You're watching WSBT 22 News at 6.
No one has been spared. Heavy rain and melting snow are causing problems across the area.
From flooded basements to streets, parts of some roads are even being washed away from the water. There are too many road closures and travel advisories for us to list. Also, several schools have announced that they have delays for tomorrow. We have team coverage. Caitlin Connon has been talking to those along Bago Creek. Jesse Schultz is watching issues around the Yellow River. And Veronica Ortega tells us about the problem south of South Bend. But we start with Chief Meteorologist Matt Rudkin. And Matt, a few short breaks, but the rain isn't done yet.
No, there's a whole lot more coming. The good news is this is it, but look how expansive this area of precipitation is. Let's zoom in on our local storm tracker radar here. I'll stop this and we'll move into county by county here. We'll start here in parts of Michigan and Elkhart. Notice there's a lot of rain. Millersburg, down towards Goshen, over towards Middlebury and Shipshewana. Extremely heavy rain for you. Our southern counties, you've seen a lot and you're continuing to add to that. Warsaw, there's very heavy rain just to your west near the CCAC by Atwood. This is all coming right towards Warsaw and over towards Leesburg, Syracuse, and North Webster. Plymouth, Knox, heavy rain for you. Rochester and Winnemac, areas in between the communities. Everybody's seeing moderate to heavy, steady rain here. How much rain has fallen in the past 24 hours? Easily 4 to 5 inches of precipitation. Some of you picking up more than 5 inches. We're going to add another 1 to 2 inches through the evening and overnight hours tonight and into your morning tomorrow. To try to put this into perspective here, this is a significant event. Notice it continues through the evening and eventually goes down to just a slight chance by the morning. So that's the good news. But this was a very, very significant event. If this were snow, we'd be talking 50 to 60 inches of snow. Now, two different physics here between cold air and warm air. But I want to try to reiterate how significant this is, shattering records all over the place. Our normal winter season is about 65 inches of snow. So we have almost all of our winter precipitation in 36 hours. That's why we're seeing significant problems. And unfortunately, because the ground is so frozen, it's going to get worse. The rivers are going to rise Wednesday and into Thursday, potentially record levels. We'll talk about that county by county coming up here in just a few minutes.
Matt, thank you. People living along Bago Creek may need to find another place to sleep tonight. We continue our team coverage there with WSBT 22's Caitlin Connon. And Caitlin, that creek really flooded.
Todd, you can barely tell there's a street here behind me at all, and that's why around a dozen families were asked to evacuate their homes this morning. And as the rain keeps coming down, those families are now thinking ahead to the tough job of cleaning up.
It was a foot deep at 6 a.m. when we left in our basement. I can only imagine how high it is now.
Erin Milliken says she's in shock.
We are kind of like the newbies on the block. We knew it was an issue, but we've never experienced it. I just can't believe it. I just cannot believe it, how quick it happened.
To make matters worse,
we were told we didn't need flood insurance. It wasn't necessary. It hadn't flooded in since '97.
Milliken says this may be her first rodeo, but it's not her neighbors. We met a few people today who were pretty unfazed by this deep water, like Tad Warner.
Third week that we actually moved in here, we flooded about 2 feet.
In the 40 years since then, Warner's house has flooded a couple times. He's made some preparations.
There was some cedar down there and decided that since the cedar didn't stain being underwater, that we would redo the entire lower level with rough sawn cedar.
He also built a 3.5-foot retaining wall.
It would work a lot better if it was like 4.5 foot tall.
Milliken has a retaining wall too. It wasn't high enough. She says she'll probably have to gut the basement.
I just know it's going to be a lot of work, and that's fine, but it's just disbelief. I'm glad that we're all out, and that's awesome, but it's going to be a lot of work to get him back to a safe home.
Warner says he's just going with the flow.
Damn. See, this is why I don't come down here. Well, there's really nothing you can do about it. It's kind of a trade-off, the beauty for the danger.
I did speak to the Red Cross today, which provides shelter after emergencies like this. Volunteers say they actually won't be setting up a shelter for families on this block. They've all opted to stay with family members of their own. Live in Elkhart County, Caitlin Connon, WSBT 22 News.
What a mess. First responders have been busy in the Bago Creek area. They have helped people and pets from their homes ahead of the rising floodwaters. Both Bago and Elkhart fire departments launched rescue boats to help people in Creekwood Terrace. Elkhart County Emergency Management and the Red Cross helped coordinate rescue efforts. The Bago Fire Department initially responded to a flooding call there just after 7 this morning.
From the time we've gotten here, I believe the water's come up probably about 10 feet. So it was rapidly rising. It looks like it's kind of slowed down now, but we're getting water from downstream, Wakarusa area, and everything else that's coming through here. So it's an ever-changing dynamic.
Several people say this is the worst flooding they've seen in the Bago Creek area in 10 years.
The heavy rain and melting snow has people in one neighborhood reliving bad memories. We continue our live team coverage in St. Joseph County, where we find WSBT 22's Veronica Ortega. Veronica, we really are seeing such widespread flooding throughout the county.
Jennifer, the emergency management director tells me there's a lot of pressure coming from the St. Joseph River, which he says is above flood stage levels right now. He says that's causing problems for the entire watershed system, and the Jewel Woods subdivision is just one of the areas experiencing flooding. Jewel Woods was one of the hardest hit areas after the historic flooding nearly 2 years ago. At the time, homeowner Kiva Ford had only been in his new home for a few months.
I owned my house for about 9 months, and then the flood came through and flooded my basement, kind of destroyed everything that was down there. I lost probably about $60,000 or $70,000 worth of things.
Ford said he still hasn't fully recovered and says he regrets buying a home in this neighborhood.
I'm concerned, for the longevity of this neighborhood. I don't really understand why this keeps happening here.
Emergency management officials say there's a lot of contributing factors and no clear answer as to why this keeps happening.
Did I expect it? Not quite to this magnitude, but the ground is frozen. So there is absolutely no absorption anywhere. So when the rain hits the ground, it's moving and it's going to take the path of least resistance.
After having to completely gut his basement, Ford says he's done a lot to prepare and just hopes history doesn't repeat itself. And next time he buys a house, it will be on a steep hill. It's true.
I guess you make a gamble buying a house, and I just I checked to see if this was in a flood zone. It's not considered a flood zone, so never thought about it.
County officials say that they are in defensive mode right now. They can't pump water because there's nowhere for the water to go. So any fix would only be temporary. They are encouraging residents in the Jewel Woods subdivision to fill up on sandbags to protect their homes because more rain is on the way. And live in St. Joseph County, Veronica Ortega, WSBT 22 News.
First, fast, accurate. With Todd Connor and Dane Murray. You're watching WSBT 22 News at 11.
The number one thing we want residents to know is that if you see standing water and you can't see what's at the bottom of it, do not drive into that standing water. Certainly do not walk into that standing water. You don't know what's under it. It's not clean, it's not safe, and it might be moving faster than you expect.
A warning tonight from South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Right now, several roads are closed across the city, many of those by the St. Joseph River, which is close to a record level. And it's not just South Bend. You can see Much of our viewing area has been dealing with widespread flooding all throughout the day. WSBT 22 has team coverage as we continue to deal with those rising waters.
Our Heather Black is live in South Bend tonight. She'll have more details from the mayor in just minutes. But first, let's get right over to Chief Meteorologist Matt Rudkin. So Matt, the rain, well, it's not done yet.
No, we got one more round to go through until it is done. And this system has just been an incredible record-breaking system, just blowing out records for February. We'll touch base on that in just a bit. Storm Tracker radar showing the rain up in Michigan. It's raining as well in northern Indiana, LaGrange County, Elkhart, Kosciuszko County. A little bit of a break for you, but more heavy rains coming. It's in Marshall, Stark, Pulaski, Fulton, LaPorte, and Porter counties. A wider view shows you it's this big mass here. We got several more hours of heavy rain to go before maybe a little sleet and snow ends it by tomorrow morning. See this? This nothingness, clouds? That's our weather for tomorrow, which will allow the water to slowly recede. But when it does, it goes into the rivers, which is going to cause rapid rising tomorrow and into Thursday. 4 to 6 inches of rain, well above expectations for the system, obviously beating all-time records, not just for today's date, but also for the entire month of February. To try to put this into perspective, two different physics here between warm air and cold air, snow and rain. But if this was snow, we're talking 50 to 60 inches of snow. In a normal winter, we see about 66 inches. So this was close to the normal winter precipitation in 36 hours. Just remarkable. As far as precipitation goes, rainfall, a couple more hours, obviously definite right now, but it slowly goes down overnight. We're going to talk about the flood threat and what's coming up next in your forecast in about 10 minutes.
All right, Matt, our team coverage continues now with WSBT 22's Heather Black. She is live in South Bend.
And Heather, South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg says the river could soon reach historic levels.
That's right, Dane. The river right now is at 9.5 feet, and according to the mayor, the flood level is at 5.5 feet. Now, if the rain continues to fall like it's forecast, then we could see situations worsen, and like the city says, it could become worse than a 100-year flood. Now, tonight at the press conference, the mayor says most of the heavy flooding will be concentrated near and around the river. But with the cold temperatures expected for tomorrow morning, crews will be out salting roads, which means morning commute may be difficult. Mayor Pete warns residents that if you suspect your home has structural issues, then you need to call 911.
If for any reason you think that your house is structurally compromised, for example, if there's any evidence in the basement of bricks or any part of the foundation coming unstable because of water pressure, that is an indication that the house is not safe.
And the Red Cross is on high alert. They are partnering with local churches to be ready just in case flood homes become flooded and people need a place to stay. Also, the O'Brien Center is open as a warming center for other people who need a place to stay as well. And of course, like the mayor and South Bend Fire Chief said tonight at the press conference, they said, if you see standing or moving water across a road, do not go over it or walk in it. Just turn around and find a different route. Live in South Bend, Heather Black, WSBT 22 News.
First, fast, accurate. You're watching WSBT 22 First in the Morning with Bob Montgomery and Leanne Tokars.
It is 5:30 and we begin with a WSBT 22 weather alert. Most areas under some type of flood advisory this morning as the rain continues to fall and waters continue to rise.
Now, this is a live look in St. Joseph. Obviously, no standing waters downtown St. Joseph, and you'll find a lot of places like this, but you will find many more places with water completely covering the roadways. We have team coverage of this continuing flooding event. WSBT 22's Christian Bean is going to be joining us live from South Bend in just a few moments with what everyone in the city needs to know. And Caroline Torrey is following some breaking news out of Elkhart County, specifically Goshen, where floodwaters are forcing the evacuation of a mobile home community right now. But let's check in with meteorologist Carrie Pujol.
Good morning. We're starting out, of course, with flood warnings still in effect. In fact, most of these flood warnings we're talking exist until we get into tomorrow evening because of the amount of water. And this is for our whole area for standing water because of the heavy rain shower. So we're not just talking river and creek areas. We're talking low-lying areas, roads that have little dips in them. Maybe your basement, you're having some issues there. So this is that flood warning that exists. The good news is the rain is not quite, but just about done. We also have lots of river flooding that we're talking about about. And this is something that is still going up, because what you're going to notice today is a lot of standing water everywhere, but the rivers are going to get a lot worse in the next 24 hours because all this water is going to start to filter into these rivers, and the rivers are going to go up, and some of them already at flood stage, like the Elkhart River around Goshen area. Flood stage is around 7 feet, and we're already at 11, so we're already way past that. We see problems in Plymouth. We've been talking about this for the last 24 hours, where flood stage could cause some major flooding. Also in Winnemac, less people affected here, but we're talking some major flooding here. This potentially is going to cause some widespread major flooding as we get into tomorrow afternoon, as we start to really see those numbers go off. And again, there's the Plymouth warning right along that Yellow River, and the St. Joe River in South Bend. The flood stage is at 5.5 feet, and we're expecting this to crest at around 12. That's going to be record flooding in those areas. The good news we have is we're just about done with the rain. The bad news is we're not done yet, and now we're starting to see it mix. We've been watching a little bit of sleet and freezing rain and snow along the lakeshore, and we're seeing a little bit of that inland. Won't cause a lot of driving issues with this because it's just not cold enough. We have temperatures right at the freezing point, so a little bit of rain and sleet and freezing rain. I only expect a couple of very isolated slick spots, if that, and then we will see all this precipitation end this afternoon. We'll have more on that coming up in about 10 minutes.
Gary, thank you. Happening right now, South Bend's mayor telling the city to prepare for what could be historic flooding.
The mayor briefed the media last night and is preparing to provide another update that we'll carry live here coming up in about 30 minutes. WSBT 22's Kristen Bean joins us live from South Bend this morning. And Kristen, the mayor is saying city workers are putting in some long hours to help the people who need it most.
Yeah, the city's 311 center was open until midnight last night, and it has just reopened this morning at 5:30. During a press conference last night, the mayor warned the river could reach historic and even dangerous levels. As of last night, the river was at 9.5 feet, but the river is considered flooding at 5.5 feet. So you can see we're already over. He says the river should reach its flood stage, the high point, Thursday morning or sooner. Parks and walkways around the river are already covered in water. And as for your situation at home, the mayor says it's important to know when to call 911.
The number one thing we want residents to know is that if you see standing water and you can't see what's at the bottom of it, do not drive into that standing water. Certainly do not walk into that standing water. You don't know what's under it. It's not clean, it's not safe, and it might be moving faster than you expect.
This is one of those areas right here. We're along Riverside Drive in South Bend. What you're looking at is Riverside Drive, although you wouldn't know it because the river has overflown its banks here, and we have water all the way up into the YMCA parking lot. The Red Cross has local churches on standby to offer shelter for people in need. Also, the O'Brien Center in South Bend is now open as a 24-hour shelter, although you'll have to use the back entrance because the front road is closed. It's unpassable this morning. The mayor is planning to be at Central Fire in about 30 minutes to brief the media. We'll carry that live both on WSBT and on Facebook. And keep it here. We'll have updates throughout the morning on the situation here in South Bend. Live here in South Bend, I'm Kristen, WSBT 22 News.
All right, Kristen, thanks very much. We are also continuing to follow breaking news out of Elkhart County. Right now, rescuers are working to evacuate a mobile home community in Goshen.
WSBT 22's Caroline Torrey joins us from the scene. And Caroline, the floodwaters there becoming too dangerous for people to stay.
They are, and since we last talked, the waters, we were able to move closer, so you can see that the water is really surrounding these mobile homes here. I'm at Creekside Estates in Goshen. This is at the Indiana and Wilden Avenue intersection. So this mobile home, I've learned, is near Rock Run Creek as well as the Elkhart River. So two bodies of water that are likely contributing to this issue here this morning. We've been seeing first responders wading through the water, looking for people, knocking on doors. We've also seen first responders in boats, taking people in boats to rescue them from their homes. As you can see, numerous departments are on scene right now, fire department, ambulance, as well as police. So we are working
to learn more information about this. We have been trying to actually speak with the first responders, but understandably, they're very busy trying to ensure that everyone in this Creekside Estates community is safe. So we will continue to monitor this situation and bring you any updates as soon as it happens, and we will bring you that coming up here on WSBT. Live here in Goshen, I'm Caroline Torrey, WSBT 22 News.
All right, Caroline, thank you. And happening overnight, rising waters in Elkhart County neighborhood keeping utility companies busy as well. Police and gas crews were called out last night to the DeCamp Gardens neighborhood on the report of at least 2 gas leaks. This is just to the west of County Road 13. The Elkhart River runs through this neighborhood. You can see quite a bit of water there pooling on the streets and not getting any better this morning. Fortunately, it doesn't appear anyone was hurt.
First, fast, accurate. You're watching WSBT 22 News at midday.
And we start with the WSBT 22 weather alert. Good afternoon. I'm Bob Montgomery. The heavy rain has finally stopped, but flooding problems are getting worse across the area. Goshen right now under a state of emergency. Marshall County is under a travel warning. Dozens of schools canceled for the day today. Roads closed. In some cases, these roads have washed out. Our WSBT 22 First Alert weather team is covering the region right now. Caitlin Connon just finished talking with St. Joseph County leaders. Jesse Schultz checking on the road conditions in Marshall County, and we have travel warnings in place there. Now, Caroline Torrey has an update on early morning evacuations in Elkhart County as other evacuations are happening right now. We need to start, however, with meteorologist Abby Wempler. Abby.
Yes, well, at least the good news is this rainmaker is out of here. However, look at the mess it has left behind. This orange you're seeing right here, about 5 to 6 inches of rain fell during this event. Where you're seeing some isolated red, like southern LaPorte, also portions of Stark County, you saw 6+ inches of rain. The yellow, that's about 4 to 5 inches of rain. And then the green, 2 to 4 as you make your way farther east. So yes, this definitely is responsible for causing a lot of problems. But here it is, that rain off to our south and east. So I know a lot of you just want to kind of breathe that sigh of relief as we are getting a little bit of a break from the falling rain. Unfortunately, we still have to deal with that rising river concern. Storm tracker radar, though, I just wanted to zoom in and show you close to home that we're not tracking any more rain today. Elkhart, though, First Alert weather camera. This is the Elkhart River that you're seeing right here. Already at record flood stage. It is not projected to crest until tomorrow, and it's already at record stages, causing a lot of problems there. So we're going to continue to watch these rivers rise, although the system has actually made its way out of here. 30 in South Bend, 32 Warsaw, also Elkhart, 32 Dowagiac, 31 in Plymouth. So that warm air from yesterday that held all of this water, that's gone too. 32 Bristol, 33 Shipshewana, 32 New Carlisle, and 30 in LaPorte. So big picture, what are we looking at? Well, we're getting a break from the rain. The flooding will worsen, and the majority of our major rivers around our area will crest overnight tonight and throughout the day tomorrow. Most at record levels. We're going to talk much more about those rivers and also when rain returns. It's not too far away. I know not the best news, but we need to talk about the next round coming up in minutes.
All right, Abby, thank you very much. Well, the first round of heavy rain has stopped, but a lot of roads are still underwater and many homes are threatened. St. Joseph County leaders have been meeting this morning discussing the county's response. WSBT 22's Caitlin Connon is live near the flooded St. Joseph River on Northside Boulevard. Caitlin.
Bob, County Commissioner Andy Kostelny tells me we are not out of the woods yet. Like you mentioned, I'm on Northside Boulevard. This used to be the YMCA parking lot in this area. As you can see, there is a car just down the street here, completely submerged. The St. Joseph River is expected to continue rising. County leaders say that those levels could rise through tomorrow. And with all this water on the roads, the county is under a yellow travel advisory, essential travel only.
There aren't going to be barricades or cones on every road. No. You know, the worst of the worst are barricaded. There are still roads that don't have barricades or cones to warn anyone. So you're still going to have to be very careful. That's why we're saying please slow down. You know, pay attention to your surroundings and the roadways.
I'm going to try and catch up with some homeowners now to see how they're impacted by all of this flooding and how they're trying to clean up now. I'll tell you what I find out later tonight. Live in St. Joseph County, Caitlin Connon, WSBT 22 News.
Caitlin, thank you. Of course, travel is an essential issue right now, and roads are closed in many cases by the hundreds around the region. Some departments say they've run out of street signs and barricades. Now, this is a map of the current closures just within the city of South Bend. You see those closures highlighted in red. You can find this map on the city's website. Now, South Bend City officials report no water rescues overnight, but the city does expect things to get worse as the river rises. Mayor Pete Buttigieg asked people to be aware of what's around them.
If you're anywhere near the river, keep an eye on your basement. Again, the biggest things to look out for is any sign that anything's moving. That could be an indication. For example, if you see cinder blocks or bricks that are moving or falling, that could be an indication of a structural compromise. If you think your house might be compromised structurally, call 911. If you see water in your basement getting close to anything electric, stay away from that.
City street crews continue putting up these road closed signs and high water signs. They're also trying to clean out catch basins and fill whatever potholes possible. Our team coverage continues now in Marshall County under a travel warning as we speak, meaning you could be ticketed if you're out driving depending upon the situation. WSBT 22's Jesse Schultz is live in Bremen. And Jesse, the road you're on actually has been collapsing from all of the water.
Yeah, that's right, Bob. I'm here on State Road 331 between 10B and 9B, and I want you to look at this. Look at all this water that I'm standing in. It's really deep, but this really isn't the problem. It's that the water has nowhere to go. So it's actually using the culvert underneath this road to drain itself, but it's making it hollow. So crews are worried that if you are driving on this road, it will collapse. That's why it's closed off, and they're hoping that they're gonna get a hold of all of the roads. They say there's many like this throughout Marshall County, but they can't be at all of them. So you have to pay attention to those barriers and the road closed signs. I'm going to be in Marshall County throughout the day, updating you on these conditions, and I'll try to do it on air and online. But for now, I'm live in Marshall County. Jesse Schultz, WSBT 22 News.
All right, Jesse, thanks very much. That's a good point. INDOT said this morning they've run out of barriers and signs. So if you see a road doesn't have a barrier, if it has standing water, it's still best to turn around and go the other way. Now, happening right now in Elkhart, first responders are evacuating people in flooded areas. There was a mobile home park in Goshen earlier today under evacuation as the floodwaters were rising there. First responders remain on the scene in Goshen and are right now in Elkhart. WSBT 22's Caroline Torrey was at the first evacuation earlier today at Creekside Estates. She joins us now live from the live desk. Caroline, some of these people needed to be rescued by boat.
Bob, that's because the floodwaters were quickly rising. First responders told us that the water had risen a foot or two in just the first couple of hours after arriving. Rock Run Creek is very close to Creekside Estates. Its overflow nearby is why homes toward the back of the mobile home park are being the worst hit right now. Responders waded through the water in the dark to get to houses, knocking on doors to get people out. Some were able to leave with no assistance, but 9 people had to be rescued by raft. A few opting to stay in their homes, though responders aren't advising this. Homeowners say they heard loud sirens, waking them up to evacuate around 2 in the morning.
I guess they was going through here telling people to evacuate, and I was planning on staying there till they come up, told they wanted everybody out. But it's the worst it's been in a long time.
Evacuees were transported to the First Baptist Church in Goshen. That's where they're meeting with Red Cross volunteers. Emergency crews in Elkhart also had to help rescue a few people and pets overnight, and those rescues are continuing right now. And there have also been evacuations in the Berrien Springs area at Shamrock Park and River Spring Estates. At the live desk, I'm Caroline Torrey, WSBT 22 News.
First, fast, accurate with Jennifer Copeland and Todd Connor. You're watching WSBT 22 News at 5.
We in South Bend and in coordination with the county are declaring a local disaster emergency. We're also issuing a travel advisory. What that means is that in the areas that the city has closed off, anybody who disregards a barrier and tries to drive on a closed street will be ticketed.
Just 30 minutes ago, South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg issuing a travel advisory, and this is why. This is a live look from the St. Joseph River in South Bend. Many people near here are already dealing with a lot of flooding, and the river is continuing to rise. The St. Joseph River in South Bend and Niles breaking records. Rising rivers and flooding leading to dangerous roads throughout our entire viewing area. Just take a look at this video. This comes to us from Goshen. You can see cars nearly completely underwater in the Kroger parking lot. The store closed until further notice. Right now, Goshen also under a state of emergency. And check out this video from Marshall County. This road actually collapsing from all of the water on top of it. A travel warning in effect right now for drivers in Marshall County. And we are not out of the clear. WSBT 22 has team coverage from water rescues to closed roads and what you can do right now to protect your home. We have everything you need to know to keep you safe. Our WSBT 22 First Alert weather team is tracking the rivers as they crest. We will be checking in with everyone throughout the newscasts. And this is a live look from Elkhart. A state of emergency has been declared for the city and the county. The St. Joseph River continues to rise there, forcing people to evacuate their homes. We begin our live team coverage with WSBT 22's Veronica Ortega. She is live in Elkhart. And Veronica, how does the situation look right now?
Todd, I'm near 6th and Moody Streets in the city of Elkhart, just west of downtown. If you take a look behind me, you can see that the road has almost completely disappeared under more than a foot of water. Now, first responders had to act quickly to evacuate people from their homes. Some didn't want to leave their property, but officials urged them to leave because utilities would soon be cut off. Firefighters used boats and even an armored vehicle to get through the water. In just this neighborhood alone, more than 20 people, including their pets, were taken to safety.
Some people did choose to stay and wait there and wait it out and see what happens. And I have a feeling that here in the next few hours we'll be back to help them get out of there. It's their property, and we certainly understand that. But the big thing is safety. We want to make sure that people are out of there safe.
According to a spokesperson with Indiana-Michigan Power, several hundred people are currently without power in Elkhart. No word yet on when the power will be restored. In total, about 40 people are now in shelters. Coming up at 6, you'll hear from some of those people who were forced to leave their homes because of flooding. In Elkhart, Veronica Ortega, WSBT 22 News.
All right, take a close look at your screen because here is where you can find sandbags in Elkhart for those of you who still need them. They're available at West Side and North Side Middle School, the Riverview Park Softball Complex, and Pierre Moran Pool. Make sure to bring your own shovel as well. WSBT 22 meteorologist Abby Wepler continues our team coverage.
That's right. And you saw Veronica out there. I mean, a lot of water on the ground. The good news, though, no water falling from the sky. This system that has broken records from river levels to how much rain we've received has now pushed away to our south and east. So here at home, we're getting a little bit of a break. Storm Tracker radar is actually trying to pick up on some flurries, but I don't really expect that to impact your evening in the least. Futurecast. So here it is. Heading out this evening, we have no issues. Notice a few flurries are possible overnight and then early tomorrow, mainly in our southern counties. But as we get into late tomorrow night and the first half of Friday, we don't have good news for you as we're going to add more rain to this forecast. But in the short term, what are we seeing with those rivers? Most of them are at major to moderate flooding. So meaning that they are well above that flood stage. Some of them by about 6 to 12 feet. All will crest late tonight through tomorrow. What does crest mean? Reach its highest point late tonight through tomorrow. And it does look like St. Joseph, the Yellow River, Tippecanoe River, Elkhart Rivers, they're all major concerns. And of course, those include big cities around the area. I do want to let you know when these crest, we still have days behind it before they fall back below the flood stage. We're going to look at each one of these rivers, talk about their flood stage, where they are now, and also about our rain event this weekend coming up in minutes. Todd?
All right, Abby, a mobile home park in Goshen was evacuated as floodwaters rose. Rock Run Creek is close to Creekside Estates. Its overflow is why homes toward the back of that mobile home park are the worst hit. Responders waded through water in the dark, as you can see, to get to houses, knocking on doors to get people out of there. Some were able to leave with no assistance, but 11 people had to be rescued by boat, and 4 people remained in place in a trailer that was on higher ground. Marshall County still under a warning level travel advisory. That means if you don't have to travel, you shouldn't. We're told some of the county roads and state highways are really bad. WSBT 22's Jesse Schultz has been in Marshall County all day long. And Jesse, how are the roads right now?
Well, many of these roads have water on top of them or underneath them. I'm here on State Road 331 between 9B and 10B, and let me just show you what we're working with. This is water coming underneath the road, and it's causing this. This road is almost completely collapsed. I spoke to the Marshall County Sheriff. He says there are about 30 county roads closed today due to flooding. He says so far they haven't had to do any water rescues, and they're thankful for that. He credits it to people listening to the travel advisory and not going out on these roads. I spoke to some drivers throughout the county. They say all of the flooding is causing a headache, but not getting stuck in the water is worth it.
I'm just trying to find my way home from work. It seems like every back road we go down, we got to turn around and find another route. We've seen a couple cars up to the windows in water, and they said there was a truck floating in the cornfield they had to pull in.
So as you just heard, not everyone is taking this travel warning seriously. I mean, since we've been here, this hole right here was really small, but as people have been driving around this road closed signs and these barriers, it's gotten bigger and it's just been buckling under the pressure. That's why this warning is so seriously, and you need to take it seriously because it is there for your safety. I'm live in Marshall County. Jesse Schultz, WSBT 22 News.
And as you heard from Jesse, countless roads are closed across the area. Some departments have actually run out of street closed signs and barricades. Here is a map showing the closures in South Bend. They are highlighted in red for you. One of those roads, Angela Boulevard. This is a picture from that street this morning. You can find this map on the city's website. We also have an updated list of road closures on WSBT.com. Heavy rain and flooding is being blamed on a train derailment. It happened just south of Grand Rapids last night. That forced several roads to be closed near US 131. Police say a washout from the heavy rains may have caused the two engines to derail. 2 people were hurt. And our weather coverage is just getting started on WSBT 22 News at 5. Here's a look at what else you can expect within the hour. A live update on the flooding in Niles and St. Joseph County. We will have much more on the state of emergency in Goshen. And Abby will be back with your extended forecast in about 6 minutes.
You're watching WSBT 22 News at 5.
All right, take a look. These pictures show the scene in Niles near the river. Mayor Nick Shelton sent us these earlier today, or he posted these online, I should say. WSBT 22's Cassidy Williams is live in Niles with an update on what the city is dealing with right now. Cassidy.
Todd, I'm here in front of Wonderland Cinema in Niles, and you can see the river is surrounding me and also approaching the doors. The cinema posted on Facebook that they're hoping the sandbags hold up, but that it isn't looking good. Even in the last hour or so, we've seen it kind of inch closer and closer to the road there behind the camera. And the city doesn't expect the water to stop rising until tomorrow morning. They're expecting it to reach a record level of 16.9 feet, and it's having impacts on businesses and apartments here. The city administrator says right now the city is focusing on the people that are displaced because of these waters and making sure that they have somewhere to sleep tonight. Coming up in about a half hour, I'll have more on how this water is impacting apartment complexes. Live in Niles, Cassidy Williams, WSBT 22 News.
All right, this is what many of you are dealing with right now, flooding issues in your basement. Many of you are seeing these issues much worse than this even. But what do you do if you have flood damage and insurance isn't covering it? You can report damage online through the state of Indiana. Hoosier homeowners, renters, businesses, and private nonprofits can all report uninsured damage. And you can find that link and more information on our website, WSBT.com. Just click News Links.
First, fast, accurate with Jennifer Copeland and Todd Connor. You're watching WSBT 22 News at 5:30.
Floodwaters are posing big problems for drivers around the area. This video is from Elkhart County. As you can see, 2 cars ended up in high water at County Roads 32 and 9. It is a low-lying area, but police throughout the area are warning of dangerous roads like this one. It's hard to tell how fast the water may be traveling across a road. It could be enough to even sweep your car away. It's better to play it safe, they say, and avoid all roads with high water. Goshen has declared a state of emergency. First responders there are dealing with high water problems. WSBT 22's Elkhart County reporter Ed Ernstus is at the live desk with more on that. Ed.
Todd, everywhere you look in Goshen, there are problems caused by the flooding. Even though the rain has stopped, the river levels continue to rise.
It's something you don't expect to see leading into downtown Goshen. Fire department water rescue crews helping to evacuate people from their homes. It happened here on Indiana Avenue, as well as downtown here on West Lincoln. A number of homeowners are dealing with water leaking into their basements. Ray Collins had 10 inches of water in his basement.
I'm on my way to Lowe's to get another sump pump, actually. I've overwhelmed my first one. My backup is a battery backup, and it's wearing out right now.
This morning, water was leaking into Goshen Electric. When Ron Jones pulled in here, water still wasn't coming in from the street yet.
But about 7:30, it started rising pretty quickly and just started flooding our parking lot, and it's now in the building we got about 8 inches in the building, and it's continuing to flow.
The Goshen Fire Department was kept very busy overnight and this morning dealing with a number of flooding problems at homes, businesses, and streets in the area, as well as keeping an eye on the flood waters as they continued to rise. Again, part of their day was spent evacuating people who couldn't get out of their homes.
This is the worst I've seen it since approximately 1982. We have Pike Street blocked in Goshen and closed. We have Indiana Avenue, Plymouth Avenue's closed. If you don't have to be out and don't have to drive, please don't.
By the way, classes were called off today in the Goshen school system because of flooding issues. At the live desk, Ed Ernstis, WSBT 22 News.
There are still many flooded roads in St. Joseph County. We continue our team coverage there with WSBT 22's Caitlin Connon, and she is live in South Bend. Caitlin, county leaders say areas near the St. Joe River are still having the worst problems.
That's because the river is still rising. County Commissioner Andy Castelny says just because the rain has stopped doesn't mean water has found its final resting place. I'm in front of the YMCA right now, and at noon we were standing in this parking lot, and as you can see, not much of a parking lot there anymore. Other parts of the county are seeing improvement. A few of the roads county engineering closed yesterday are already starting to dry out. Pavement that was completely water covered is starting to peek through again, but drivers are still being careful.
I usually know better to stay out of the water. We know where it's too deep to go in, so we just try and stay out. But there's people that don't, so they get hung up then. Drive my pickup, don't walk through it, or take a car.
County engineers say even if a road looks safe, there could be hidden dangers underneath the water, and those dangers are making some people a little nervous about driving around tonight. And hear how those nerves are affecting a local business tonight at 6. Live in South Bend, Caitlin Connon, WSBT 22 News.
WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Matt Rudkin continues our team coverage.
Yeah, we're tracking obviously a lot of rising water and high water. The river's now the concern. The ponding that's on the roads and in the fields will slowly recede, but all that goes into the rivers. Look at the Elkhart River here downtown. This is extremely high. It's not done. It'll still rise a little bit. The downtown's Elkhart over towards South Bend, Mishawaka, these were designed to hold this much water, but we're getting close to the capacity here. Some of the older areas or without some of these designs, obviously significant flooding. I know Goshen and Niles, some of the two hardest hit communities. That doesn't mean others of you are dealing with it. Plymouth, I know, down towards Winnemac and Warsaw, some issues down that way as well. Notice the rain's to our east and south, so we're done with it for now. This was an incredible amount, and you look at these numbers, we're used to snow. 4 to 6 inches of snow is not a big deal. February is the one month of the year where we see the least amount of precipitation. This is basically our winter's snow melted down and given to us in 36 hours. This is an incredible amount of water. It broke all-time records that we've never seen since anybody watching us has been alive. The 1800s were when these records started. Nothing even close to this. So this is an incredible event that will go down the books and be hard-pressed to be matched again in our lifetime. Again, 4 to 6 plus inches of rain in just a few hours. Notice also these are different rivers. See the pinks? That's major flooding, potentially record-breaking flooding. Almost everybody, the big rivers around here, dealing with that. A couple reds, but that's still moderate flooding there in LaGrange, over towards the Three Rivers area, down towards North Manchester. This is, again, a big deal. Unfortunately, the rivers are going to get worse. They crest tomorrow morning and afternoon. That's when they'll be at their highest, slowly receding after that. Temperatures upper 20s as we head through the evening. We'll take a closer look at area river levels. We do have some more rain to chat about as well. We'll touch base on that coming up in about 10 minutes.
All right, Matt, take a look at this. 2 families rescued earlier today from their South Bend homes. The rescue is happening on Emerson Avenue, north of Northside Boulevard. Neighbors say the water rose quicker than they expected. First responders say no one was hurt and are going door to door in that area to make sure everyone else is safe.
First, fast, accurate with Jennifer Copeland and Todd Connor. You're watching WSBT 22 News at 6.
Well, the flooding is getting worse for many of you. We want to give you a look of aerial shots of downtown Mishawaka. The water has covered most of the Riverwalk and Buter Park. This is just one of the many sites like this across the area. We'll get those shots to you soon. And that has led to more schools being delayed for tomorrow, including Plymouth schools, which are now closed for Thursday. We have crews covering the entire region, from evacuations to washed out roads. And we'll hear what your local leaders are doing. But we start with WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Matt Rudkin.
Yeah, we're talking about some serious issues out there. Here's a live look in Elkhart. Look at the Elkhart River down here. Luckily, this was built for floods like this, but it is close to the top of the side of the walk there. And we'll have to keep a close eye on that. We're going to see issues as we head towards the next couple of days. Here's satellite and radar imagery over the past 6 hours. You'll notice rain luckily stays to our south. We get some dry weather here at home. Look at rainfall totals here as we go through the past 36 hours or so. You'll see 4 to 6 inches of rainfall was widespread below my name here. 6 inches plus in parts of Pulaski and Stark County. That's a significant amount of water. To put that into perspective, that is almost the winter season's total precipitation in 36 hours. Just destroyed old records, which is why we're seeing such significant flooding out there. Here's a look at river gauges around the area. See the pink colors there? That's significant major flooding in some cases, especially St. Joseph River, Yellow River over towards the Tippy River, and Kankakee, for example. This is record flooding. It hasn't happened since records began. That is remarkable. Temperatures tonight stay in the 20s. Luckily, we remain dry. Rivers crest tomorrow. I'm going to take a closer look at that for you. Plus, let you know when we get some more dry weather in here in your forecast coming up.
Okay, Matt, a local disaster emergency is now in place in South Bend and St. Joseph County. Right now, the St. Joseph River is about 12 feet. That's well above the old record level. As Matt has told us, even though the rain has stopped, the river will continue to rise. Emergency crews did 2 rescues today. There's also a travel advisory in place. That means you could get a ticket for driving around road closed signs.
We're throwing everything we have at the issue, and streets, even through the night, streets were really working heroically to do things like clearing the grates. We have Bowman Creek, which is carrying a lot of water, making sure that's not impaired, responding to those catch basin calls, even dealing with potholes. We know that we have some fierce potholes right now, and to the extent possible, I think we had up to 6 crews out today on that.
The mayor says even if you don't see water on a road marked as closed, don't drive on it. Crews are making sure streets are structurally sound. The city opened the O'Brien Center for those forced out of their homes. There is now a state of emergency for the city of Elkhart and Elkhart County. Some people have been forced to evacuate their homes. WSBT 22's Veronica Ortega continues our live team coverage in Elkhart. Veronica, the St. Joseph River rising there as well.
Todd, as you can see, the roads in this neighborhood near 6th and Moody Streets are almost completely underwater right now, and it's getting worse. From the time we arrived here until now, we had to move about 40 feet. First responders were here for several hours, making sure that people got out safely. When people in this Elkhart neighborhood woke up this morning, they were shocked to find water practically on their doorstep.
We left for work at 5:30 this morning, and just this road right here was pretty deep, but we were able to drive through it. And I got off work about 10:30. All the roads to this area are closed off, and it's about 100 times worse than it was before.
First responders used boats and armored vehicles to safely remove more than 20 people and their pets from their homes.
It's just something that I never thought I'd see, happen to us. I've got children in Houston, Texas. They went through the flood too, so now I know what they went through, but this ain't nothing compared with what they went through, but it's a pretty bad scene.
Cold temperatures are a concern right now, especially for those without power.
We're at the mercy of Mother Nature right now. The rivers are still going up, and they are going to continue to go up probably for the next day or two. And then it's just going to be a point of getting all of that water out of here.
Evacuees were taken to local shelters to wait out the flooding, but the cleanup could go on for several days.
This is the very first time, and it can very much be my last time, too. I'm okay with not doing this again.
I&M shut off power to this neighborhood for safety reasons at the city's request. Several hundred other people in Elkhart are without power due to flooding. No word yet on when that power will be restored. If you see water rising, officials are urging you to call I&M to have your power shut off. And if you need to be evacuated from your home, there's a non-emergency number that you can call. We have that information on our website, WSBT.com. Just click on this story. Live in Elkhart, Veronica Ortega, WSBT 22 News.
Dozens of people having to find a new place to stay tonight. Emergency crews rescued 39 people from a Goshen neighborhood. That's because the Creekside Estates mobile home park is underwater. 11 people were helped out with boats. Homeowners say they heard loud sirens waking them up to evacuate around 2 in the morning.
I guess they was going through here telling people to evacuate. And I was planning on staying there till they come up, told they wanted everybody out. But it's the worst it's been in a long time.
The Red Cross is helping evacuees. There have also been evacuations in the Berrien Springs area. Flooded roads are making for some tricky travels. We continue our live coverage with WSBT 22's Caitlin Connon. She is live in South Bend. And Caitlin, some roadways are improving.
Out in the farm fields near St. Joseph County Fairgrounds, some of those washed out roads are starting to dry up, but that is certainly not the case here near the YMCA in South Bend. Things are actually getting worse here. Since noon, this floodwater has crept up a few feet. County leaders say the river level is still rising, and that's caused a bit of a hurdle for the clubhouse on Northside Boulevard. The organization serves people with psychiatric disabilities, helping them find jobs and make friends. Despite the rising waters, leaders with the clubhouse decided today would be business as usual.
I think it's really important that we're open. It's also really important that we call all of our members and say, how you doing? You're doing all right? Is your basement flooded? Yeah, at times like this, when people need support.
Over here. You can see here the water is starting to creep up the clubhouse's driveway. County leaders say be careful when crossing water-covered roads. You may not be able to see dangers that are underneath the water's surface. Live in South Bend, Caitlin Connon, WSBT 22 News.
And there are hundreds of roads closed still across the area. Some departments have run out of street signs and barricades even. South Bend has a map that shows you which roads to avoid in the city. They are highlighted in red for you. You can find this map on the city's website. All right, things are just as bad along the river in Niles. WSBT 22's Cassidy Williams is live there for us tonight. And Cassidy, some businesses there have already lost everything.
Todd, I talked to one computer company that's here along 2nd Street that says he's lost $100,000 in equipment, pretty much everything in his store. And it's not only businesses impacted, also the apartments along here. A lot of the first floor apartments are flooded. You can see some people did not get their car out in time. Cars are pretty much completely submerged, and we saw some people even kayaking through these parking lots here, which firefighter did stop by to remind me that that's very unsafe as these waters can be contaminated. That firefighter also told me that the Red Cross just opened up a somewhere for people like that are in these apartments to stay. That place is on 3rd and Cedar at the Wesley United Methodist Church for anyone that needs somewhere to stay tonight. And the city leaders say that's really what they're focusing on as the water is going to continue to rise and is expected to crest tomorrow morning, coming up at 10 and 11. All of more on how the people here are already coming together to clean up even before the water stopped rising. Live in Niles, Cassidy Williams, WSBT 22 News.
First, fast, accurate with Todd Connor and Dane Murray. You're watching WSBT 22 News on Fox at 10 p.m.
Right now at 10, disaster emergencies across the area as floodwaters continue to rise. Roads are closed all over, including major arteries like part of US 31 in downtown South Bend.
Other roads like State Road 331 in Marshall County are closed after collapsing from the water or just washing out. Many cities and counties are under travel warnings tonight. Several local school districts are under delays and closures tomorrow. We'll have those at the bottom of your screen throughout the night. Meanwhile, IU South Bend is evacuating students from school housing right now.
New at 10, the river crossing student housing is at risk of flooding. WSBT 22's Heather Black is live there tonight. And Heather, most students have left those buildings.
That's right, Dane. Over 400 students live at these apartment complexes. Fortunately, many of them live close by, and university officials tell me that 3 of the buildings are at risk. So they wanted students to leave as a precaution. When we arrived here tonight, some of those students, along with faculty and staff, were filling up sandbags. They're placing them as barriers along the apartments closest to the river. We caught up with a student who was evacuating for the night.
I didn't think it would come up this far, but here we are.
We actually think the water may not come up to threaten the buildings, but we wanted to be extra certain.
And the Red Cross has provided cots for students who don't have a place to go, and those are set up at the Student Activity Center on campus. Now, classes will be canceled for tomorrow. The university wants to have time to concentrate on flooding areas like at the apartment complex or on campus. Live in South Bend, Heather Black, WSBT 22 News.
All right, and Matt, the worst is yet to happen, actually, because rivers are cresting until tomorrow.
Correct. Yep. So the rain's done, but all the runoff is still going to the rivers, which will cause them to go up. Here's a live look in Elkhart, an impressive camera, because right at the bottom is the Elkhart River, and look how incredibly high that is. Again, record levels. This was built for a flood like this, but nonetheless, we are reaching capacity, and we've got a little bit ways to go. We're going to talk in depth about river levels, county by county. I've zoomed into several locations, but before we do that a little bit later, let's talk about rain amounts. This is an incredible amount of water, nearly a winter's season worth of precipitation in a couple of hours. That's why the flooding is so devastating, plus the snowpack, plus the soil was frozen, so it couldn't go anywhere. 4 to 6 inches widespread officially at the South Bend Airport, over 5.5 inches. Some of you, especially underneath our logo here, Newton, Jasper, over towards Stark and Pulaski counties, some of you may have topped 6 inches of rainfall. Satellite and radar imagery shows it away from us. It is to our south and east, but you'll notice some dry air, and there's a little bit of moisture out to our west, so we'll track that for you coming up a little bit later. I have a lot to talk about on our main weather forecast, including, again, river levels at historic highs tomorrow. We'll talk about when and how long the dry weather will last coming up here in just a little bit.
All right, Matt, a local disaster emergency is now in place in South Bend and St. Joseph County. Right now, the St. Joseph River is at about 12 feet, well above the old record level. As Matt has told us, even though the rain has stopped, the river will continue to rise. Emergency crews conducted 2 rescues today. There's also a travel advisory in place. That means you could get a ticket for driving around those road closed signs.
We're throwing everything we have at the issue, and streets, even through the night, streets were really working heroically to do things like clearing the grates. We have Bowman Creek, which is carrying a lot of water, making sure that's not impaired, responding to those catch basin calls, even dealing with potholes. We know that we have some fierce potholes right now, and to the extent possible, I think we had up to 6 crews out today on that.
The mayor, who has now declared this a 500-year flood, says even if you don't see water on a road marked as closed, don't drive on it. Crews are making sure streets are structurally sound. The city opened the O'Brien Center for those forced out of their homes. Meanwhile, there are hundreds of roads closed across the area. Some departments have run out of street signs and barricades. South Bend actually has a map that shows you which roads to avoid in the city. They are highlighted in red for you. You can find this map on the city's website.
We simply just had to shut down a number of our facilities so we can keep the plant being able to operate at a future date. So right now we're processing about 20 million gallons a day. Our peak should be 77, so we're operating at really low efficiency right now. And if it gets much higher, we'll have to completely shut down the plant.
The floodwaters also impacting the city's operations. As early as tonight, South Bend's wastewater treatment plant could be forced to shut down because of rising floodwaters. Our partners at the South Bend Tribune capturing this photo of the flooded plant. If it's forced to shut down, all of the city's raw sewage will be dumped straight into the river. City officials say issues at the wastewater plant have no impact, however, on the city's drinking water.
A local disaster emergency is now in place in South Bend and St. Joseph County. In South Bend, things are particularly bad along the river on Northside Boulevard. That's caused some problems for the clubhouse, which provides support and job help for people with psychiatric disabilities. The organization is trying to stay open for its clients.
This morning, the water was there by the telephone pole, and now the water is up to our driveway. So we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but one day at a time. How do you prep for a river overflowing? I mean, you try to be sensible and think about what's safe and go forward.
And he says a big part of what the clubhouse does is prevent isolation. So he says if he can stay open for the people who come into him, he will. The rain may be over for now, but river waters have not stopped rising. Niles is expecting the St. Joseph River to reach historic levels overnight. WSBT 22's Cassidy Williams is just back from Niles and joins us live in the studio. Cassidy, the downtown area is already being impacted.
Dane, some apartment buildings had to be evacuated and some businesses are already underwater. The river isn't expected to crest until tomorrow morning at 7. And while cleanup can't really begin until the water recedes, people are already starting to do whatever they can.
Charles Biggs is fishing.
Figure there might be some fish.
In his apartment's parking lot.
Got to turn a bad situation to a good one. After hard work, time to have fun.
He's relaxing after a long day of helping others move their cars out of the flooding. But some cars are stuck.
It's hard. It's hard to deal with. A lot of these vehicles, most of them vehicles, are water damaged.
And the computer business across the lot, also underwater.
Nintendo Switches, guys. Oh. All our video games. We don't have a single video game console that made it.
Custom Computer Company was a place where the community could use a free computer or video game. Now more than $100,000 in equipment is ruined. For now, they do what they can.
Load it up, get it out of here. Anything we can save, we'll save, but we're starting over, so we'll start from scratch.
The city spent the day blocking roads and trying to save its own buildings. Employees built a wall of sand around the bus station as water inched closer.
We're getting dangerously close to not being able to get in the building at all.
City leaders say today the focus is on life, making sure everyone has a warm, dry place to sleep. And while the historic level of flooding makes a good photo, the city asks you do the exact opposite of this.
Really, people need to stay away from the downtown right now. There's still a current, there's fish in there, and it's contaminated.
But many can't help but look at something they've never seen before.
I've seen it flood bad down here before, but this is the worst. This is the worst flood I've seen in 60 years.
The Red Cross has opened a shelter at Wesley United Methodist Church. The city says it doesn't expect the water to recede to minor flood stage until Monday. Todd?